Hi, Unknown Recap here. Today I'm going to explain a mystery action movie called Face Off. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. 6 years ago a tragic moment occurred when one of the most wanted criminals of the present day, Castor Troy, shot an FBI agent Sean Archer at an amusement park. But the unexpected outcome was that the bullet went through him and killed his son. And now, after all these years, the light in Sean's eyes hasn't gone out and he's actively making the team work on Castor's case until they finally finish the case. At this time, our villain is peacefully planting a bomb in the center of town and hanging out in front of everyone, and even manages to flirt with a girl from the choir, and not only. Finally, after so many years came the information that one of the Troy brothers, Pollux, bought 2 tickets to a private plane, and one of the passengers was Castor himself, who asked his brother and his accomplices to stay away from the city center on the 18th, where there will be a big explosion. He flirted lightheartedly with the stewardess, but when he noticed the police in the windows, he no longer relaxed so much. Meanwhile, the girl turns out to be an FBI agent, for which Pollux knocks her out and Castor shoots her and throws her overboard. The helicopter manages to land on the wing of the plane and break the flaps, but when Castor opened fire, he had to retreat and Sean was able to shoot the engine. This infuriated Castor and killed the pilot, then failed to control and crashed at full speed into the hangar. Pollux is soon apprehended and Castor uses his beloved pistols to start a firefight, but soon comes face to face with Sean and tries to convince the FBI to let him go on the pretext that he will tell them where the bomb is. Archer doesn't believe him, however, and after Troy attempts to free himself, he is caught in an engine airflow, thrown against the bars, and he loses consciousness, falling into a coma. After a successful operation at home, his daughter Jamie's image has changed again, causing her to be temporarily suspended, but Sean finally informs his wife that he has closed the Castor Troy case, which means he can spend a lot more time with them. The next day, the department enthusiastically congratulates Sean on his victory, but he offers a toast to the 7 agents they lost in the operation as a rhetorical question. And the office finally closes the case. But soon word gets out about a neuro-paralytic gas bomb with a kill radius of 1 mile. Pollux refuses to cooperate, and his superiors are not going to believe Sean's hunches. And then one of Sean's agents gets an idea. They come to the institute where Castor lies in a coma. There the plastic surgeon Malcolm Walsh amazes Sean with an operation on his colleague, whom the doctor made an ear from scratch and put it back on. But it was all just a demonstration before the doctor offers to change Sean's appearance to Castor to get his brother to talk about the bomb, because they won't get the information otherwise. Sean refuses and begins questioning all of Troy's associates over the past few years, but only learns that the bombing will happen on the 18th. Having no other choice, Sean agrees to a top-secret operation in which he is not allowed to tell his loved ones about the change in his appearance. He returns to his wife and reminisces about the very day his son died, but when he informs her that he has one last job to do, his wife is of course offended, but does not forbid it. Then Sean says goodbye to his beloved daughter and arrives at the plastic surgeon. Before the operation, he asks the doctor to save his scar, which is very important to him, and gives the ring to his colleague, and then heads to the operating table. The operation is successful, which makes Sean angry because he has acquired the face of his enemy with whom he must live for several days, but with the help of drugs he is calmed down and his voice is adjusted with a chip in his throat, but he is warned that he must be extremely careful. If he sneezes the wrong way, it may break. The police pick Sean up and put a bag over his head and bring him to an unknown place. The warden explicitly states that Castor is now his property. No one knows about this prison. The prison floor is made of electromagnet and his boots will show the guards his location 24/7. Sean sees Pollux in the crowd of prisoners, and on his way to him, he meets an old acquaintance who asks him to f off. However, he is immediately attacked by another, and to show Castor's true face, Sean pretends to be the psycho and beats up the prisoner, but remembering who he really is, stops the fight. For this, his boots are magnetized to the floor and he gets tasered.
I'm gonna have you fired.
Insert you're fired. Meanwhile, the real Castor, without a face, wakes up and realizes that he has lost his identity, whereupon he screams at the top of his lungs. And while Sean's face is isolated in liquid, Troy calls up an accomplice and promises in a fit of paranoid laughter that he will get revenge for what was done to him. In the middle of the night, his accomplices kidnap the doctor and Castor asks for his face back. While Sean, after many questions from Pollux, whose excuse is that he has been in a coma for a long time and has forgotten much, finally learns that a bomb has been planted in the LA Convention Center. On the same day the boss reports a visitor. Sean thinks it's the agent he will finally give the information to and he will be released, But when his feet are magnetized to the floor and the doors open, he sees himself, but in fact Castor. He immediately admits that he killed everyone who did the operation, even taking the ring from his partner. After the attack, the guards neutralize him and release the agent. The fake Sean returns home to his beloved wife, who still resents her husband, but his sympathy dispels these misunderstandings. At home, he reads Sean's notes and finally finds his little girl in the room. At first he gets her name confused, but reads it off the pillow and picks up what he came for, cigarettes, now daddy's changing image. At this time in prison, it turns out that Castor released Pollux in exchange for testimony, and in a rage Sean screams that the bomb was planted in Congress and he is Sean, not Castor, but understandably no one would believe such nonsense. At the FBI station, Castor turns off the cameras and walks in on his brother, who he soon tells that he has had his appearance changed and now they will play by the new rules. He disarms the bomb 2 seconds before it goes off, realizing the value of his current face. Sean sees Castor teasing him on TV that the rules of the game have now changed and his side has the ball. The world is turned upside down, while a valiant FBI agent who has served the state for several years sits in jail for nothing. A hired terrorist wanted by Interpol takes the praise of the FBI team.
Did you just have a surgical procedure?
What do you mean?
Is the stick successfully removed from your ass?
In the evening, Castor throws a dinner party for his beloved wife Eva, which will continue in bed. And her real husband is forced to arrange a riot in prison, so that soon, together with the guy he fought with at the beginning, he tries to escape, but in the epicenter of all events he unfortunately dies. He manages to get out of the prison, but it ends up in the middle of the sea. This forced Sean to jump right into the water under the gunfire of the helicopter. And Castor, pretending to be a decent husband, aroused Eva's suspicions, because he forgot the birthday of his now deceased son. On his return to the office he is informed of Castor's escape, who has already arrived in town and stolen a car. The first call he made to Eva, with a request to go with her daughter away from home, because the one who pretends to be her husband, is not, but the woman asks her not to call anymore and hangs up. The second call goes straight to Sean's office, where he contacts the real Castor. When he arrives at Castor's sidekick, Dietrich, he is having a good time with girls and all kinds of preparation. But when the very guns of his nemesis appear before his eyes, he remembers his revenge and suggests that a team of thugs kidnap Sean from the house where the alarm code 1019 can be turned off, the number when his son died. When asked how he knows this, Castor boldly declares that he slept with his wife and then the team bursts into laughter. But when Castor says he wants to film Sean's face, the smiles disappear from their faces. In the bathroom, he fights his worst enemy from the mirror and scares a girl named Sasha Hassler. She thought he was dead, for which she awards him a slap. Substitute Sean, meanwhile, talks about his future plans to get rid of his enemies, but when he notices through the window that the guy is about to rape his daughter, he breaks the glass and beats the perpetrator, forcing him to apologize. When the family returns to the house, the father decides not to play with his daughter and gives her a Bowie knife, which she must use to protect herself. Castor wakes up in Sasha's bed and nearly shoots the girl, but a passionate kiss saves the situation. Only there is one problem in the form of Pollux, who was watching and informed Sean of the location of his body. Castor was about to leave, but apologized to the girl for the past, for he saw a note of resentment in her words, after which she admitted that he had to leave or her son would be taken away, and also admitted that it was his son who was 5 years old. At this time, the FBI was already occupying the roof across the street when Sean hugged his son Castor. He introduced his real son Michael, which startled the boy. The next moment, the FBI opens fire, but Sean manages to cover them. A terrifying capture operation is led by Castor and, in the process, Sasha runs off to save the child and Dietrich is killed by Castor's bullet. The men's dialogues lead nowhere and we get to see an interesting scene in which each has to shoot the mirror behind which his enemy is standing. But after the shot, they both dodge and when Sean sees the police, he has to flee to the roof, where Pollux is waiting for him, whom Sean throws off the roof into the hall, causing Castor to watch his brother die. When a policeman intervenes in a tearful moment, who doesn't understand the reason he's complaining over Pollux, a bullet flies out of Castor's gun directly into his forehead. The next day, when his boss comes to tell him off for his monetary losses after his operations, threatening to fire him with a single look, he has him clutching at his heart. After looking around the office to make sure there are no witnesses, he tells the boss that he is Castor Troy and kills the boss, then asks the secretary to call an ambulance for the boss with a heart attack. Meanwhile, Sean sneaks into his house, and when his wife sees him, he begs her not to scream, trying to prove that he is her real husband, who has had surgery to complete the mission, but Castor comes out of his coma and puts on Sean's face. This moment was breaking his heart because his own wife couldn't believe him. Then he reported that his blood type was O negative while Castor's was AB, after which he took the photo of his son and left. And in the evening, when the not real Sean came home and posted a perimeter guard, he told his wife about the death of his boss who had had a seizure and they went to bed. But when he went to sleep first, the girl took his blood for a future test, where Sean's words were confirmed. And he was already waiting for her there, where he fully proved his identity and she helped him heal his wound from the FBI raid. He told her that Castor had become bureau chief and she reminded him that the boss's funeral was tomorrow and Castor would be there. But he immediately showed up at the hospital and looked for his wife, but Sean was no longer there. He explained the reason for his visit by saying that his wife had disappeared in the middle of the night, so he needed to find her. She reminded him that she was a doctor and could be called in any minute, after which he left. The next day, Eva informs her husband that her daughter has stolen $50 and disappeared, while Sean promises on Castor's behalf that if he succeeds, Sasha will not worry, for the FBI will not bother her again. The next day at church, a boy in the crowd hands Castor a picture of Sean's son, and he crumples it up and throws it away. And when everyone disperses, Sean shows up and prays for his son, but Castor appears from nowhere behind him and a firefight ensues. In the process, more and more people get into it. The outcome is the death of all of Castor's associates and Sasha, who was dying on Castor's body, not realizing that he was an FBI agent and begging him to raise her son so that he would not grow up to be like them. A fight ensues and Jamie shows up, who doesn't know who to help and misses, but ends up captured by Castor and using her Bowie knife, she breaks free. Castor then escapes and a water chase ensues, in which Castor kills the cops and clips Sean so that he flies through the boat. Eventually they are carried ashore, where Castor beats up Sean and he is about to fire a harpoon in response, but Castor holds up the mechanism and deliberately cuts his face so that Sean looks in the mirror to see his enemy, then lets go and dies quietly. The FBI agents who arrive are already aware that it's Sean and Eva finally kisses her husband with his new face. When he is delivered in an ambulance, he takes his ring from the dead man. And once on the operating table where he gets his face back, he asks that the scar on his chest not be returned, for the moment of his revenge has been accomplished. In anticipation of the happy moment when Eva is waiting for her husband, he finally shows up on the doorstep and is greeted by his beloved family, but today he is not alone, but with Adam, Sasha's son, to whom he has promised to raise his son to be a decent man. If you like my videos, support the channel with a like and subscribe. My goal is 10,000 subscribers. I'm trying very hard to just cut down on your movie watching time. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I won't say goodbye.